All right. Hey, everybody, let's get this show on the road. Rob here for our BSPU live coaching call. Just a little bit of details here to begin. I have something to share. I think some cool stuff that could be helpful to you. Type in the chat box any questions that you have. Towards the end, I'll answer any questions. Could be any particular thing. Oh, it's cutting out, you said. Can someone let me know that? Okay, good here, good here. Let me know. Okay, so everybody's good. Michelle, maybe the iPad that you're on. So looks like everybody else is good. Anyway, so I'm going to share some details, something a little bit different today. And then remember, you can certainly ask any questions surrounding what I'm going to talk about, but by all means, any questions regarding the writing of your book, the launching of your book, the marketing of the book, and the making money, profiting, PR, speaking engagements, etc. So wide open to that stuff. All right. So here's the thing. I got some props for you today. I just got this in the mail, and it's something that I actually ordered like a month ago, and really excited about it because it finally came. And it's actually it's a book that was originally published in 1729. It looks as though, from everything I could gather, that this edition was published in the early 1800s. So this is about 200 years old. It's a book written by Thomas Boston called Human Nature and its Fourfold State. No matter what you think of the content, it's a spiritual book. This is written by a Puritan minister who lived until, I think, 1732 or 1733. It's published out of Edinburgh, Scotland. And I got it for a couple of reasons. I got it because I'm just so intrigued by the power of us documenting our lives in a written manner. And in particular, documenting our stories, our wisdom, our values in such a way that it can live on for literally hundreds of years. Right now, this book, the title, written by Thomas Boston, it's for sale on Amazon right now. I mean, you can get a new copy of it sent to you, which blew my mind. I actually went and looked, and I'm like, holy cow. I mean, this you can, I mean, it's still like in print, if you will. Of course, I wanted a more original version. And someone may say, why the heck are you handling a book that's 200 years old? Because I don't want like this museum piece. I literally have started reading it because I just am so intrigued by the idea that we can document our values, our story, our history, the things that we have learned, and use that to make a difference in the world, not just in this generation. I know I spend an enormous amount of time talking about how we can get media and PR, how we can profit from our book, etc. But I don't want for you to lose. I don't want it to escape you that what you're doing in writing can potentially make a difference for future generations. That potentially a book that we do at Bestseller Publishing, I was talking to my team this morning, potentially, one of the over 500 books that we've done at BSP in the last 6 or 7 years, someone could be holding that book 200 years from now and talking about the wisdom and what they're gaining from it. And that could be the very thing that you've written, which I think adds a sense of both responsibility, right, to us, as well as this sense of like power and encouragement to actually get our stuff done. The other thing that I got, and I just got it in the mail today, which I didn't even know it was coming. One of my clients, Mark and Chris, they're brothers, Jareen, they own a company called Coral Partners, and they are literally treasure hunters and some of the most famous and world-renowned treasure hunters in the world. And we did a book for them on treasure hunting, as you might imagine. And in one of their finds, they found a wreck from the Ming Dynasty. The Ming Dynasty is anywhere from 700 to 500 years old. So roughly from the the 14th century to, I think it's the late 16th or early 17th century. And I bought some of their wreck, what they actually found. And I want to show you because they're so cool. Maybe I should just handle one at a time. But this is actually a Ming Dynasty teacup. It still has coral on it. This is one. This is the one I bought. They were kind enough actually to give me one for free, which those guys are just fantastic. But this is a Ming Dynasty cup as well. Perfect condition. It actually still has the stamp from the time period in the Ming Dynasty. And they sent me, of course, certificates of authenticity. The Ming Dynasty was from 1368 to 1644 AD. And this in particular is from a 15th century Ming Dynasty shipwreck that they found and, were able to do the treasure hunting and pull everything out. And this just happened to come today. This book came a few days ago. My intention was always to talk to you about the book, but because this came, the idea that I can hold something in my hand that literally was produced 500 or 600 years ago, that people were drinking tea from, that has this incredible legacy as a part of it, to me is just so intriguing. It's so powerful. And here we have the opportunity as authors to make the kind of impact on people's lives that can not just last today, but that could potentially last, into generations in the future. And so I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about this for a couple of reasons. You've heard me share a number of times about, the Wall Street Journal or rather New York Times article that was done, years ago that basically surveyed adult Americans and found that roughly 8 out of 10, 80% of those they surveyed, closer to 81%, said that they wanted to write a book. They felt like their stories and lessons and wisdom and value could be documented in a book, and yet less than 1% ever get it done. And I know, because I have dozens and dozens and dozens of you on the call every single week. Some of you are actually doing this work where we're helping in the ghostwriting phase, we're helping in the book launching phase. Others of you are writing it, and you're part of BSP University. And here's the deal. You got to get motivated to get this stuff done because it is so powerful to have the opportunity, right? Who knew when this was being written, 290 years ago by Thomas Boston, that, somebody, a publisher in the 21st century, right? Like, who knew that we would be discussing it today, that it would be for sale worldwide on a site like Amazon, and that I could buy something that's literally 200 years old, hold it in my hand, and still it be in good enough condition to read it. This has intrigued me for a couple of personal reasons as well as business reasons. I thought I would share that, but I wanted to do this just for motivation for you. You got to get your stuff done. You got to get your book completed because it will make an impact and an income for you in this generation, but it also could do some really cool things for the future. We have a client that was just in here a couple of weeks ago. His name's Stan Miller, and he owns estateplanning.com. He's an attorney and basically helps other attorneys to build their estate planning practices. He has a wonderful business, really, really smart guy. But his latest book is about legacy. And we sat down together and we talked about this, and this really got me thinking about my own personal business. And some of you know I'm writing a legacy book as well called Things You Should Know. It's really something that I'm writing to my kids, even though my kids are older. And I think I've taught them all these things. I'm just documenting it, right? In case that, hey, I told you about this stuff, and here it is in documentation. Things that I think that they should know, kind of part 1, part 2, and that book hopefully will be done this year. Actually, it will be done this year. Let me just go ahead and state that, put that out into the universe. But Stan's book, everything that he does from an estate planner, from an attorney perspective, has to do with his attorneys helping people to transition their wealth, right, from one generation to the next. And as a parent, if you are a parent, you may not be, you may not have any intention to be, maybe you're going to be one day in the future. But as a parent, right, I'm saving up not just for my retirement, but I'm also saving and investing in the hopes that I'll have something to pass on to my children from an investment standpoint, right? From the standpoint of passing on my wealth. And Stan wrote this book that we're working on for him. And he thought to himself, well, here we are actually spending all of our time, energy, and focus as estate planning attorneys, helping people to transfer their wealth. But after a generation or so, oftentimes the wealth is squandered, or oftentimes, it maybe goes to pay the college education of a grandchild or something, where the grandchild never really got to know the grandparent that was actually passing on this wealth. And after a couple of generations, hopefully the wealth is taken care of and maybe it continues to grow or does good things for that generation. But after a couple generations, that person is forgotten. Their wisdom, their story, their values are forgotten. And so Stan came with the idea, what if, as the attorneys that he's helping, these estate planners, what if we could help people to understand the value, not just in passing on their wealth to the next generations, but passing on the wealth of their wisdom and their knowledge. And of course, I was like eating it up. I was like, Stan, that's brilliant and fantastic, because obviously, there's lots of ways they can do it. And he wasn't primarily talking about a book, but we got to talking and he said, I'm going to add a whole chapter in the book about the need for people to write and document their stories and their wisdom in a book so that could be passed on to the grandchildren, great-grandchildren, etc. For those of you who have been to any of my events, I often talk about a distant relative of mine. Simeon Kosberg shares the same last name. My relatives come from Russia at the turn of the 20th century, late 1800s, early 1900s, and a distant relative, Simeon Kosberg, was the prime person involved in the Russian space race. So literally, he's born around that same time that my ancestors came over. He's from the exact place that my ancestors came from, same last name, same heritage. And here he has this lineage of, he was awarded the kind of Russian Medal of Valor, all of these cool things. There's a statue to him at the Moscow Aeronautical Institute because of his work on the space program. And yet he died early, and he actually died under kind of mysterious circumstances. It was Russia right there in the communist regime. And he died, in the early 60s. And he never wrote anything, or if he did, it was never passed on. There's no stories, there's no wisdom. And here I am, I'm like, oh, I would love to read something about him. I would love to learn. And here we have today, and are aware of the power that we have today to write down our values, our wisdom, our stories, and let it live beyond us. Hey, I may never have a statue at the Moscow Aeronautical, Institute. Most certainly I will not. But, I have a son, my middle son, his name is Jake. And Jacob, he's graduating from UCSD with a degree in math and physics. And he's been working for NASA kind of on a contract basis. Initially, about 2 years ago, he started as an intern there. And he's already been, promised a job as soon as he graduates in the next quarter. And I'm like, so here I have a son that is going to be working at NASA. And here I have a distant relative that was literally the father of the space program in Russia. It's like all these cool connections, but I know nothing about him. And I thought, we have got to just take, more serious the opportunity that we have to put our work, our stories, our values, our wisdom into the written form so that we can pass it on. So here's my challenge for you, and I'm going to open it up. I see there's a bunch of questions, which is cool. Here's my challenge to you. Number one, if you haven't written your book yet, you need to get motivated to do that, right? This is your opportunity, right? I have Publish, Promote, Profit. This is my business related book. I'm thrilled with it. I'm thrilled with the success of it and what it's doing for bestseller publishing. I'll talk in the coming weeks about our funnel and all that's, and almost every week I talk about that. I'll talk more in the coming weeks about that. But I'm doing 2 new books this year. One's a business related book and one is more personal legacy book. And I'm really excited about that because, I have many of my business related stories in here, but, I want to relate my personal wisdom and values to my kids and relatives and to maybe other people that might be interested. So here's my challenge to you. Number one, get your book done. Number two, in the writing of your book, take serious both the quality of what you're writing and find ways to interject your wisdom, your values, your stories so that it meets the needs of your audience. We always talk about the Kim Kardashian conundrum, right? Which is, hey, we don't want to write our autobiography because no one knows who we are. Unless you're Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or Kim Kardashian, you probably shouldn't write, the autobiography of Rob Kosberg. No one knows who I am. But you can write your wisdom and your stories and put that in the context of helping and serving other people. And so I challenge you, make sure, number one, get your book done, right? Stop hesitating. I mean, look how cool it is to have something that has lived on for hundreds of years beyond you. Stop hesitating, stop with the worries about writer's block or whatever. And number two, find ways. Make sure you find great ways to interject your stories, your wisdom, your values in the book. And hey, it may mean, quite honestly, writing a second book, right? Or a third or a fourth. And whether you use BSP or just do it on your own, you want to pass this stuff on. It's not enough, in my opinion, now that I know what I know, to want to pass on my wealth to my children and future generations. I want to pass on the way that I acquired what I did. The 30-year marriage that I have to my incredible wife, the relationships and friendships that I have where they would literally take a bullet for me. And yes, the ways that I have served communities to grow a successful business. I want to pass on all of that. So anyway, that's all I have to share about that. I hope it's helpful to you. I hope this stuff is inspiring. I want to keep this around, and I like buying old things. I like buying older books. So I'm keeping this around to inspire me to complete my personal book, the one, on my personal values and wisdom, the one that I'm in particular writing to my kids, but also writing to those that might be interested. And of course, my wife doesn't know it, but I got these Ming Dynasty teacups for her because she loves antiques, and I thought it would make a really cool Valentine's Day gift. So there you go. Awesome. Let's see what questions you have. I'm here to answer any questions regarding legacy stuff or interjecting stories into your book or whatever, or anything else that you're wondering about. So Thomas and Gabby, hello, Rob. Greetings from France. Love it when my clients from overseas jump on these calls. Thank you for being a part of the Bestseller Publishing family. It says Gabby's book is with one of your editors right now. Might come back this week, and the hustle starts again. Anyway, we're really happy. We have one question. Would like to hear your advice. We have some struggles to find a great subtitle. Do you have a strategy to find a great subtitle? So awesome question. So here's, it obviously depends, right, on what your topic is. But as most of my clients, our topics are business, self-help, nonfiction books. And so when I think about a subtitle, I think about the benefits of the reader and making sure that I communicate the promise of the book to the reader. So let me take one step back and then a step forward. So the title itself should be curiosity provoking. It should tell part of the story. Ideally, it's 1, 2, or 3 words. It can be longer than that. But, I use Malcolm Gladwell as a great example. Publish, Promote, Profit tells you a good part of the story, but it also might provide a little bit of curiosity. What does he mean by publish, promote, profit, etc.? And then the subtitle, The New Rules of Writing, Marketing, and Making Money with a Book. Really clean, really simple. So that's the promise of the book. The promise is you're going to get the new way, the new rules, like the up to the minute information on writing, marketing, and making money with your book. That's the audience that I'm speaking to. So when I think about a subtitle, I always think, what are the benefits of the reader reading this book, and how can I relay those benefits in either one big benefit or three benefits? The human brain works in ones and threes. So oftentimes you'll see benefits listed in threes. Think of like the 4-hour work week, an intriguing title. And then I don't remember the exact subtitle, but Tim Ferriss lists 3 benefits to reading the book. It's like escape the 9 to 5, et cetera, et cetera. Look it up. There are 3 benefits. So think 1 strong benefit or 3 strong benefits. That's how you find your subtitle. And if you have some suggestions, put them in the chat box now, and we can bat them back and forth a little bit. But great question. Paul says, hey, that's true about the legacy stuff. I served in the military. I was much more interested in my grandfather, who was a British Army POW of the Japanese in World War II, right? How intriguing would it be to know his story? I told you a little bit about my ancestors coming over, escaping. I'm from a Jewish background. They were escaping some of the Jewish persecution that was happening in Russia at that time. They came to the United States through Ellis Island, New York, back in the late 1800s. I would love to know more about them, right, than what I can find on an immigration card. But there's nothing documented, right? I got nothing. I would absolutely devour that, as you would, Paul, about your grandfather. Michelle says, great inspiration and insight. Thank you. R says, Thomas, you're right. My subtitle is harder to write than my entire book. Description is also. Yeah. So again, think in terms of the promise and the benefit of someone getting this information, of someone reading this book, right? Someone that reads this book is going to get the new rules, the new ways to write, market, and make money with a book. That is the idea. Gary says, as a small business owner, I'm extremely busy. I've been focused on immediate revenue producing activities. My book's been 75% done for months now. Any advice from a time management standpoint? So great question, Gary. The best advice I can give you is that everybody has the moments in their day when they're most productive. For me, it's the morning. It's early hours. I'm an early riser. I go to bed early. Wasn't always that way, but it is now. If that's you or wherever you are, set aside 1 hour a day. Maybe you need to start with 30 minutes, but set aside a specific amount of time, 30 minutes to an hour every day when you are most productive in the day. If that's late in the evening, as some people are, if that's early in the morning, as some people are, set aside a specific amount of time every single day and discipline yourself to do that. And obviously, you can get help from our team. We have, book writing coaches and ghostwriters and all that. But if you're doing it on your own and you want, to do this part without our team or our help, then the best advice is figure out, when you're most productive, set aside time in the day when you're most productive, 30 minutes to an hour, and just be consistent. The other thing is I finished this book. I had it about 75% done for a long time too. I went away for a long 3-day weekend with my wife to Santa Barbara. And I said, babe, we're going to have a good time. We brought the dogs, got a great hotel right on the beach. And I spent 12 hours a day, from early in the morning, 5:30 in the morning till about 5:30, just knocking out the final 25% and getting it into editing. So that may be an option for you as well. Love the legacy aspect. Thank you. Christy says, RE time management. I've been doing this thing where I do 52 minutes on and then take 17 minutes off. And that's been really helpful keeping me focused, in case that's helpful. So Christy, you're answering Dennis's question, which is fantastic. I totally agree with that. Certain amount of time, at the time of the day when you're most productive is best. Michael says, my wife and I are working on a book. Here is the title and subtitle. And then it's not there. So maybe it's later on. Oh, here it is. Anointed childbirth, how the Blessed Virgin Mary had pain-free childbirth. Why is this is your inheritance and how to claim it. Yeah, interesting. Anointed childbirth, that follows the rules of 1, 2, or 3 words. So I like that part. You know, the whole thing on the Virgin Mary, I mean, my first thing that comes to my mind is, wow, how do you know she had a pain-free childbirth? But okay, I mean, you know, I get it if you know the answer to that. And why this is in your inheritance and how to claim it. That has like 3 big benefits. Michael says, LOL. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, that follows the rules that I laid out. So again, rules are made to be broken. But what I just laid out is you got a 1, 2, 3 word title, and then you have a subtitle that has 3 really clear benefits in it. Beautiful. Christy says, this is what you told me about titles, subtitles that I found helpful. Think about who your ideal client is. What is the fear they have when they connect? Great subtitles are always benefit focused, 1 or 3 benefits. And then thank you, Christy. Books that can be helpful, and I got them right back on my bookshelf there. 2 books that are helpful are Words That Sell and More Words That Sell. Those are 2 separate books. You can look them up on Amazon, Words That Sell. And the second book or second edition is More Words That Sell. Also, you can go through the thesaurus, focus on the promise, etc. But good information in there, Christy. Thanks for reminding me what I told you. Love that. Thomas and Gabby, again, thank you, Rob. The title is Understanding the Key to Open the Door for a Great Relationship with Your Young Horse. Okay, because you guys are horse trainers and run a stable, etc. So I need to know a little bit more information. But here's what I would say. Take the advice that I've given, the advice that Christy has given, do a little bit of thinking about, okay, you know, how can I capture their interest with 1, 2, or 3 words in an intriguing title, and then start listing out the benefits of somebody like learning your wisdom when it comes to their relationship, you know, as a horse owner, right? What is your wisdom about that? And what are the 3 strongest benefits? And pick those 3 benefits. And we can bat it back and forth, and I can help you with that. Let's see. Rob, you've missed our title. Okay, I must have missed it. Maybe it was in a previous. Can you write it again, Thomas? Because I don't see it. I only see Understanding is the Key. So if I missed it, I apologize. So double check and just type it in again. Let's see, Paul, you say business beyond business, the eternal rules and unchanging roles of the radically generous entrepreneur. Okay, so interesting. Business beyond business. I like that. My first thought is, what does that mean, right? And so it provokes some curiosity. I get that. And then the eternal rules and unchanging roles of the radically generous entrepreneur. So I think you got to reword that subtitle, because I don't get the promise of the book. I think you might need to list out like okay, what are these unchanging roles and eternal rules, right? You might want to talk, I like radically generous entrepreneur. I actually even like that in a lot of different ways, but I like that. That may need to be the primary part of the subtitle, right? So we still got to, it still means some work, but what I'm saying is I don't see in your subtitle like the benefits, Paul. So there are eternal rules and there are unchanging roles, but what does that mean to me, right? Like, how does that benefit me? I want to know the benefits to me about it, right? The new rules. Okay, this is someone that wants to be an author. The new rules. I need to know the new ways to write my book, market my book, and make money with my book. Making money with the book being, kind of an obvious benefit. So I think you need to, I would say, write down more of the benefits. But I like the various things you have there. I just don't feel like it's benefit driven enough. Kevin says, thank you for the topic. I recently lost my dad. I'm so sorry to hear that, Kevin. And I've been reflecting about what he left my sisters and I. Money is nice, but it's the values, lessons, stories, etc., that have heart and meaning and are the things that live through generations if properly passed on. Book number 2 idea, 100%. I mentioned to you that I'm going to be doing something new with this idea with BSP. And here's what I'm going to be doing. This is a business thing for us, but you need to think about ways that you can reach your ideal client. So my ideal client is not just a business owner. My ideal client is a person that, may already be retired and be at least financially well off enough to want to hire my company to help them write their legacy project, right? So I am going to be, in fact, I've already looked at some venues to do some marketing and advertising, but I'm going to market and advertise directly to people that have saved money for their wealth to be passed on, but now are interested in not just their wealth being passed on, but their greater wealth, which is their stories, their lessons, their life to future generations. So I'm actually going to be marketing that as a part of BSP because, our ghostwriters would love to do projects like that. Thomas and Gabby says, thank you for your advice. We will think about it and come back with it next week. Thanks a lot. Beautiful. Love it. Paul says, Rob, how about mindset, strategy, and tactics for the radically generous entrepreneur? Okay, so you're getting closer there, right? You're getting closer. Those aren't as much benefits though, Paul. Like your mindset is not a benefit. Your strategy is not a benefit. Tactics are not benefits. Those are more features, right? Like a cup holder is a feature in a minivan, right? I don't own a minivan anymore. My kids are grown, thank God. But a cup holder is a feature. A benefit is, wow, I mean, I won't spill my coffee again in the morning because I have a place to put my coffee, in my minivan. That's the benefit. It's taking that feature and wording it in such a way that it really highlights why the reader will gain, what the reader will gain from it. So you're getting closer. I like it, but I think you need to think more in terms of, like, can I make more money if I'm a radically generous entrepreneur, right? That's a benefit to me. Like I can be generous and make more money. Can I be more fulfilled if I am a radically generous entrepreneur? Seems so, right? So think about me as an entrepreneur. What do I want? I want to be fulfilled. I want to leave a legacy. I want to make more money. Can I do that as a radically generous entrepreneur? And then you'll get a little bit closer to it. Does that make sense? Awesome. Pete says, hi, Rob. My book is about stress relief tools. My working title is Lighten Your Day, Fast, Easy, and Effective Stress Release for When Life Happens. I like it. I think it's really, really clear, Pete. It's clean. Fast, easy, and effective stress relief for when life happens. I like it. I would probably say I'd love to have 2 or 3 or 4 from you that I could look at and say, I like this one more. I like this one less, right? When I see that and hear that, I think it has benefits, but I don't know that the benefits are great enough for me to take action. And I think the thing that I feel like is lacking, just giving it a cursory view, is the whole idea of when life happens. What does that mean? Like if you could say something more specific there about when faced with hardship, trouble, or stressful conditions, right? Like if you could say something that immediately, if I'm in a hardship or a troublesome time or in a difficult period in my life, I look at that and I go, I need that. I need stress relief because I'm in a difficult period of my life, right? Or if it's not for difficult periods of life, but it's for everyday life, then you can maybe be more specific about how it's helpful in everyday life, right? Like stressful workplace environments, stressful home life environments, stressful, schooling or education, things like that. So again, I'd like to see multiple, and I could give you some feedback on it there. Michelle says, navigating the 10 steps to navigating the world of the disabled. So navigable is the title. The 10 steps to navigating the world of the disabled. I think, Michelle, it needs a lot of work. Navigable, like, doesn't tell me enough about what this is about, right? Like, when I see that as a title, I go, is it a nautical book? Is it a, right? Well, like, what is it about? So I think you have to be a little bit more on topic there with the title. And then the 10 steps to navigating the world of the disabled. Again, I don't know what that means. Like, is this for me as a disabled person? If I were a disabled person, is this for me as somebody that is a caregiver of a disabled person? Like, you got to be more specific about the benefits there. I would definitely think there needs to be more specificity, because I don't get it. And if I don't get it, then I'm afraid that your ideal reader or client won't get it also. Anyway, hey, that's enough for today. That's all the questions. Hopefully this has been super helpful. Every week, obviously we have our BSPU calls, and normally every week I'm going to talk about a title that I want you guys to focus on and get reviews for. I'm not going to do that this week, but I have 2 for next week that we'll talk about. So don't worry about it. We'll hit it next week, and that will be an opportunity for you to give and serve to your fellow authors, who will in turn give and serve to you when it's your time to get reviews for your book. Anyway, hopefully that's super helpful. Remember your legacy. Remember, it will live on. Remember, this is your motivation. This is at least one of your motivations to making your book happen and getting it done. You guys are great. Talk to you next week.